to see what it feels like to cover up. Right.
So there's so many people out there, it's hard to believe, that are living with this anxiety.
Billions.
And that don't know it, and that don't know you to come and get help.
How could they? You know,
Right.
I think to myself, I'm only one person. And I've been doing this for so long, one-on-one. And then I started to do some workshops and some live streaming. And when Theresa went on the air, her book went into 34 countries. And that flipped it right back to me because they couldn't reach her, and she's not traveling to Europe, so it all came back my way. And they looked at her website, and they could see I was the person who helped her with her spiritual gifts, or I was the one who helped her with her anxiety. So the floodgates opened. So I had to develop more tools, and they came after Theresa. Theresa was a different way, and I used to work on people with anxiety. I just didn't know the connection until Theresa. That's when all the bells and whistles went off for me, and I put the pieces of the puzzle together. So I don't even think she realizes the impact she had on what I do now with other people.
It's amazing. Even how I came to know you and meet you was through a friend who was having health issues, was having anxiety, read about you in a book. And she called me and she goes, I think she would be a great guest for you. And it was just bizarre the day I was getting on the plane to my dad. And then you were there, and it was there was just such a reason.
I love her, by the way.
I love her too. You know who we're talking about.
Yes.
If you're listening, we love you. Okay, in your book, your new amazing book, The Gifts Beneath Your Anxiety, Simple Spiritual Tools to Find Peace, Awaken the Power Within, and Heal Your Life. PatLongo1111@gmail.com or 631-498-6098. Her website, patlongo.net. At the beginning of the book, you start off talking about empath. What is an empath?
Well, an empath, I think we all have a certain amount of empathic abilities. It's people who feel other people's energy. Now, they may not realize they're feeling it. That's kind of part of what the anxiety comes from. But they pick up the emotions of other people, much like I was picking up physical pain. That was the way it worked for me. But other people, more people pick up emotions. But they think it's their own. But meanwhile, it's the person in the room or the other people in the room. So let's say you walk into your office, and before you walk in the door, you had a great night's sleep, you feel good, you on the other side of the door, you've got 4 people. One person just had an argument with their spouse. Another person, happy as a lark. And then another one has a borderline depression, and maybe the next one is fighting a virus or something. But they all have their own energy and things going on. So an empath, a sensitive empath, will walk in that room and immediately feel it all at one time and not know what it is. They'll feel sick. They feel like they want to get away from everybody, or they want to go home, but they need to get away. They don't know what's causing these feelings. You could watch television and watch the news, and if you're a strong empath, you're going to get very emotional. And maybe you get very angry when you're around somebody who's extremely agitated. So you're picking up the feelings, and again, it's like a kindergarten teacher and a PhD. Everybody's got a different degree of sensitivity. If you're one of those people that were told you were too sensitive throughout your life, oh, you're just too sensitive. Oh, she's very sensitive. You know, she cries all the time. You have to pay attention to that, because those are pretty strong empaths if it starts very young, and it does. I see children as young as 3.
Amazing.
And they have anxiety already. So it's happening. It's happening. It's almost like, as I said earlier, the floodgates opened, but they opened from the other side. And all these children that are coming into life now are super sensitive. It's almost like there's no boundaries anymore. They have ADD, they have ADHD, they have OCD, ODD, Tourette's, autism, all manner of things that are making them super sensitive. And educationally, the teachers aren't educated to know about that all these letters that are being attached to their names is really sensitive, exceptional children.
We need more people like you in this world for sure.
Clone me.
So and back to you, when you were getting everybody's pain, their neck pain or their sickness or what, how did you deal with that at first? That couldn't have been easy.
I learned how to protect myself right away. I had been taught protection in the class that I went to. It was a meditation. We would do it in the beginning of every class, and it was white light, and I just expanded on it when I made the next meditation. As my time went by, I added more things to it. But I found that surrounding myself in light and grounding myself more than anything, that's where the balance comes in. Once you ground yourself, and I can say ground, people won't know what I'm talking about, but I imagine cords coming out of my feet and my tailbone, locking me into the earth. Now, it could be anchors, grappling hooks, lightning bolts, it doesn't matter, roots, whatever anybody chooses, it's an intention, it's a thought, because thoughts become things.
That's one great thing you taught me.
Thoughts become things, they always do, good, bad, or indifferent. So people should really pay more attention to what they're putting out into the universe. But once I balanced myself, I didn't have a problem anymore. So as many clients as I see during the course of a week, I do not do any healing until I surround, ground, and shield myself. I do it immediately, within seconds. As soon as I put my hands on their shoulders, I do it. And the next one comes in, I do the same thing. And I always start with me first. Again, honoring myself. It's like being prepared, like a good Girl Scout.
Right, you have to.
Yeah.
You have to. Thoughts become things. One of the biggest things you taught me to manifest. Like what you put out there, you get back. Absolutely.
And listen, there's a lot of truisms. I call them truisms. I don't know if that's what they are, but thoughts become things is one of them. What you sow is what you reap. The boomerang effect. Fear is your worst enemy. The only thing you have to fear is fear itself. And I believe all of these things. What goes around does come around.
Yes.
All right. What you believe you can achieve. So if people focus on those words, and I put them in my book, and everybody gets homework from me when they come to see me, and it's loud and clear. Thoughts become things. Fear is your worst enemy. Be careful what you put out into the universe, because it's going to be matched. That's how it works, like a polar opposite end of a magnet comes together. If you wake up in the morning and you're fearful, the universe is going to bring your fear to you. Now, on my way here, as you know, I was caught in traffic. And according to my GPS, I was going to be late. And I sat calmly, and I breathed, and I put my thoughts out into the universe. Thank you for moving away whatever the problem is ahead. If someone is injured, thank you for keeping them safe and moving things out of the way so the traffic can move. And it was only probably maybe 10 minutes before I started to do that, because at first I panicked. That's the normal routine. I looked at the time and I said, oops, we're in trouble. And then I said, okay, start to breathe, start to project positive, and voila, within 2 minutes it opened up. And when it said I was going to be late, it now made me early. So it's the way it works.
It's amazing. How do you receive messages from the other side?
Well, it's funny. People always think I'm a medium. I don't call myself a medium because I technically do not speak to people who have passed. I have seen my husband, so that was interesting, and I don't usually do that either, but he passed 7.5 years ago, and he came to visit me. But when I'm sitting down with a client, I trust every word that comes out of my mouth. I know that your guides speak to you in your voice. They speak to you in your voice, not in a big booming male voice or a high-pitched female voice. Your thoughts, your random thoughts, your repetitive thoughts. And you have to think about the repetitive ones, because we might call it a nagging thought that just keeps coming back and back and back. But those repetitive thoughts, especially when they feel like you're almost being pushed to either say something to somebody, to turn left instead of right, to go to a particular store at a particular time, or make a phone call, that's your guidance system saying, this is important. It's a push. You know, there's like a palpitation almost that goes with it. And you feel anxious. You do. You start to feel anxious. But it's your guides. And they are trying to get your attention. So I don't even question what comes out of my mouth anymore. I really don't. Because it's like a constant flow. If a thought pops into my head, then I know I'm supposed to use it.
How do you shut it down?
Easily.
Yeah, you've learned after all these 25-something years.
I'm a person who, when my head hits the pillow, I'm out. Okay? I clock 7 hours every night. I usually stay up till about 1 o'clock in the morning.
You do?
Yeah, every night, sometimes 2. And I put down, if I'm at 1 o'clock, I look at my clock right before I get in bed, and I look at my phone, and I said, okay, it's 1 o'clock, set it for 8. I don't start until 9:30, so that gives me enough time to do what I have to do. And but I must have those 7 hours sleep. I don't think about a thing. I don't stress over things. I don't overthink them. I just keep myself away from anything that is negative. Sometimes I'll use a song. And I might have said this on the last show, but I will rehearse a song that I don't know. I'll look up the lyrics on YouTube. And so therefore, if my mind starts to wander when I hit the pillow because of a particular day or something that's going on, I'll only give it 5 minutes, and then I immediately switch to the song. I practice the song. By the time I get through by the time I get to the third chorus, I'm asleep because it means nothing to me.
You have to learn to shut it down. This is interesting that you talk about this in the book too. Soul's agreement.
Okay. Contracts.
To live the challenge, if a disease, or in order to learn, in order to teach certain things. Can you talk about that in the book? Can we talk about that a little bit?
Yes, absolutely. Again, clients come and they have all manner of problems that they've gone through, hurts and betrayals and so on and so forth throughout their lives, maybe abuse. And I try to help them understand that we are souls before we are human beings. We are adult souls. We're not a baby soul. We're adults. We've lived many lifetimes, and that's been my experience. So when we live these lifetimes, we hang out with the same soul group. So that would be your parents, your grandparents, siblings, partners, friends, and enemies. Okay? So you hang out with these people, and you make certain decisions. Okay. Maybe your father, who happens to be abusive in this life, is going to say to you, I'm going to sacrifice my relationship with you in this lifetime so that you can grow and learn. This is Earth School. This is the toughest planet. This is where all the lessons are poured out and taught. So what are we supposed to do? We're supposed to look at that situation and say, what did I learn from that abuse? Did I learn not to raise my voice or my hands to another human being? Then thank your parent. Thank your parent for showing you what you don't want in your life, what you don't want to be. It's really like that. And I mean, we also have a review when we get to the other side. And listen, I went to Catholic school, and basically you're taught, don't do this, don't do that, this is going to happen, and God's going to punish you and judge you, and so on and so forth. And that is not how I find it to be at all. It's really the opposite. You judge yourself. You have to go through a review of and feeling of every human being you have ever hurt and every human being that you've ever brought joy and love to. So you as a soul now are going through this review, and you have to really feel it. So you go through it, and then you weigh it out at the end. Okay, did I screw up, or did I accomplish more of what I wanted to do in this life? But if you really did screw up, it's like, okay, put some more on my plate for the next round. And you go through a more difficult challenge and journey.
In your next life.
Yes, absolutely.
It's amazing. We did talk about that a lot. Tell us about the 4 bodies and 7 chakras. You take us through this in the book.
Okay. Well, the 7 chakras are at the root. They all have there's energy centers in your body. They're invisible. You can't see them. Medical professionals don't recognize them. Asian and Eastern medicine recognize these chakras. You'll find an acupuncturist and people that work with meridian lines and chakras. There are 7 major ones. There are others outside the physical body, but the 7 major ones in your body is at your tailbone, which is your root chakra. You have one at the solar it's called the spleen, or the there's another name for it. I call it the spleen chakra, but that's between your pelvic bone and your navel. And then you have the solar plexus, which is between your navel and your rib cage. Mm-hmm. And then you have the heart chakra, which is at your heart, the throat chakra, obvious at the throat, your third eye, which is right between your brows, a little bit above, and then right at the top center of your head is your crown chakra. And these invisible spinning wheels have to stay clear. They have to stay balanced. And when they're muddy or